Hey there ladies and gents, so it's been a little while since I've obviously uploaded a video. I did upload one previously but I had to mark it as private because I've just put it on standby basically. One of the things I'm doing because of this particular piece, when the magnets get put around the outside, of course they're fitted loosely, I just want to see if it measured right, and also checking positions and markings. One of the things that's happening when the magnets decide that they don't want to hold and they slam shut around each other, I end up with more broken magnets, like this one here. We've got a crack in the middle and there's a few more shattered ones just on the inside. So that's why I put it on standby for now, because I've had to order more magnets. Originally I had 2 spare, which was great. I've actually shattered more than that. I think I've actually shattered about 10. So lucky that I've ordered around 10. However, if I shatter any more, I'm going to have to order more, and of course it's going to take even longer. Currently what I'm doing, sorry about the glare for once it's actually bright in my room. What I'm doing with these pieces again is just fine tuning their positions and also the markings. This is the old core. Obviously, like I said before, that's how it's going to be set up with the inner circle, inner ring in the circle, closer to one end than what it is the other, causing a magnetic difference. What I have actually done is gone back to the old pieces. After measuring and measuring, because I've done these ones accurately, I was able to actually see what was wrong with these. Despite again checking everything and what it appeared that this circle had indents, I've managed to clear those out actually by keeping the original piece. Sorry about some. So this is actually a pretty damn good circle. I did a good job in the first place. It just had gunk on it that made it go all funny. This is in comparison. The bottom plate here is the new plate. Yeah, forgive me, but see, with the old plate, that's what it was. With the new plate, it actually again measures up. There's very little difference on the inside. Again, sorry about it, you can't see it. This is my my phone. It's an old Samsung. So it actually lines up as a circle on the inside, so I'm going to actually keep this piece. And same with the, sorry about this, that's what I get for being a smoker, but same with the inner piece as well actually. Because things happened, this is actually fractionally, absolutely fractionally too small. Because it's just that tiny bit too small when it comes to sticking it on, and the method that I use to build the magnets around it, it basically won't hold, it will crack off. I need it to be absolute, which this piece is, as it was in the first place. I've just taken off the excess glue on the outside, gone around it with a file. As you can see, the old glue's soaked in, but that's given me a nice surface to work from, very solid as well. And what I've been doing is actually just remarking and repositioning everything. So I get a bit of sun, does that help? There you are. As you can see, my nice pencil markings, everything is more accurate now. If you look on this one, on the left or the right hand side, one side is too close, one side is too far. Talking about the measurements here, there's literally a 8mm tolerance that makes this whole thing work and do what I want it to do. I'll explain the lines whilst I'm here. This is driving me nuts. I'll go back to the old one then. So with this particular one, this top line here is the centre of the outer piece, and the bottom line here is the centre of the inner piece. Because I've got a rotor that's got to go between these two, the difference, which is the middle line, is the position of the rotor. As you see, to create such a large gap here, such a small gap here, the overall tolerance again is 8mm total, but just 4mm is the difference at the core of the device that causes the greater difference on the outside. And again, these are the tolerances that I'm dealing with. I'm finding it again difficult to measure, to build. Again, I don't use CAD, I don't use pre-transparent blocks or anything like that, so I'm having to physically position each piece by eye, by judgment, and try and make some measurements as well to actually get them where I want it to be. Just got some marks just on the outside there. That's what I'm just trying to line up. And again, I've figured out how to do these whilst making it itself. There was no sort of pre-planned, it was again just figuring out as I go along. Originally I used Connect pieces and bits of plastic and CDs and whatever what I could find, even hard drive rotors, to actually try and visually displace or place everything and then figure out the differences. And again, this itself will go on. This is the old hole, which is upwards of the lower position. But I've actually found this is the problem. With the original one that I had before, it got stuck. It had wells in the magnets that I couldn't figure out. I put it down to the core, which it did have also, but now I've managed to straighten those out thankfully and still keep the measurements that I need for a circle. And I can also confirm that it is a circle by comparing it to the original cut done by the big drill bit. So that is a circle, this is a circle, but the difference here is this. This hole is meant to be slightly up as it goes in line with the centre, the 4mm. So it's meant to be slightly up of the lower line, which is these two screws here that line across there. But if you have a look, and again, sorry if the camera can't show it, but it's slightly to the right. When I drilled the hole, for whatever reason, it was not straight. Initially I either did it for a reason or there was something not right that I never spotted. But this hole here, which supports the rotor, this piece in the middle, it plugs into that hole, is actually slightly to the right, and that's what was causing the problem. Because it wasn't positioned in between the two sets of magnets here and here to go in the middle, it was favouring the core, so it would hook closer to the core and basically just not get the power, the difference it needs, because it needs to be in the middle of both sides to get the most force out. Over here it helped actually when it was closer, because you know it's attracting into position going around, but when coming out, and again right down here, the magnetic force was pushing outwards more than what I wanted, because I needed it to be both equally pushing, resulting in a 45-degree push through the centre of these two. It was rather like a 40-degree and it was trying to push outwards, so I was losing power from the position of the rotor being slightly to the right, being slightly closer to this part here. And I believe that that is the main problem that I had. So again, what I'm doing just for now is measuring, double measuring, triple measuring, positioning, and then keeping an eye out for problems like that. I'm still bartering between having a bearing as a rotor or having this brass bearing as a rotor. The brass bearing itself is good because there's no play in it. Brass bearings have that pretty good solid sturdy ability, but it's not as free flowing as a ball bearing. But the problem with the ball bearing one is they do have a wobble, and over the distance the wobble, because of the magnets attracting and repelling, causes it to shift, and because then it goes back on itself, which is this plastic bit, it goes down, that wobble causes it to hook under and actually scrape the plastic, or well, scrape the magnets or scrape the bottom. That's why I had to dig out the original core. Again, that was just purely because it was so big, but I wanted to make sure it didn't catch. And if I was to use a normal bearing in a bearing on the top of this rotor, so the bearing's actually attached to this, and the shaft in the middle is fixed to the body, not like that's a tiny little one there, but instead of this being fixed to the rotor, if I have it fixed to the body, which will make it sort of simpler to attach, but if I have it fixed to the body, the bearing will wiggle on top of the shaft, and that might cause a bit of problem. The only way to get around that actually is to have two bearings, one at the top, one at the bottom, but the shaft attached to the rotor like this. For those who sort of mess with engineering or mechanics, you may understand what I'm talking about, just purely because the position of the bearings may cause it to wobble if it's attached just to the rotor, or if it won't if it's attached to the body. of this. Again, that was a couple of minutes waffle about stuff. So that's sort of my next stage, is to, once I've got the magnets, truly position them, get some super glue. I'll need to fill and re-drill these. These holes are going to stay, but this core piece, because I know it's off, my dad told me a little trick, which is to take sawdust, like so, or more sawdust, which I've got in a bin next door because I was doing the drilling. Mix it with PVA glue or wood glue and such, pack it down in a hole and leave it to dry, and it will actually set pretty solid apparently. So that might be useful, or I can just get some other epoxy, shove it in there so I can actually re-drill it and reposition the hole more like those ones. Again, this one is actually off as well because I drilled both holes at the same time through and through, because they both fit the brass bearings supports. There's actually a second one down here. Again, because I had a fixed shaft to the rotor, that part there, I had two brass bearings that went one above the other, and that's the other half of the shaft that I've had to remove because it impacts with the very base right there. In the bottom corner, just above here, is the hole. That hole right there, so the bearings actually go, see, just on the bottom of there, but because the wood's in the way and it's got to go directly on it, you know, I've had to cut it down so I can actually position it without drilling the wood, because it would be an incorrect hole. So there's little things you've got to figure out along the way that can result in disaster. So that's why I'm going nice and slow with this overall project now, just to make sure I get things right. So I won't be gluing and sticking anything anytime soon. First of all, I'm going to default everything, which means to fill in the holes and just like confirm all the positions I'm using. I was actually did a pretty good job on that. Wooden equivalent of the magnets. Again, I've made it myself, 3mm tolerance. I've got this, again, I can check all the measurements. Again, I've done a pretty good job on that from a randomly cut piece of wood. Again, so I've made wooden magnets because I'm sick of that happening. But what that allows me to do is to actually physically stick the wooden magnets here and the wooden magnets here without this being attached, because obviously they won't work, and allow this to actually pass through in a mock version of it and see if the tolerances are correct. Obviously if they're not, they'll clang, they'll bang, but if the tolerances are good, everything will run smoothly. But more so, I can just wiggle and jiggle this about and try to position it in a more productive setup rather than, you know, just being just here. That's a very slight difference. I need as much difference as possible. You know, this is the extreme version of it. That won't work, of course, but this is what I'm going for, to get this rotor to actually turn. That's all the points. Yep, that's the old one. That's the old rotor that I tried to make of a new one with the piece, but as you can see, with the black ring in the middle, the cutting tool just wasn't playing ball anymore, and it's caused it to, well, as you can see there, you shouldn't be able to see that white bit of the rotor without it being that twisted far away, because it's not centered anymore, it's to the left. So that piece isn't cut. Just to cover it in the video, that's a cutting tool off eBay. It was originally bigger than this. I've had to cut it down so it actually fits my saw, bench press saw, and I've also had to hammer it so that both of the blades actually meet at the bottom instead of it being lopsided like it was. Getting about 8-9 quid off eBay, but I was expecting a bit more, you know, a bit better manufacturing than that. I think that's sort of my version of it, you know, hit it with a hammer, that'll perfect it. So that's the tool that I was using to cut these pieces, not this originally, but these ones, and all the markings underneath. Hello Smokey, you watching? It's me dog. It's not Max, that's Smokey. Yep, so that's the update so far. That's what I've got to. Again, I'm just sitting on my thumbs until the magnets turn up, and I can go from there. Right guys, thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you later.